Everybody's excited, you know. I don't think I've seen Josh jump that high in a long time. Tyler's towel waving. And then, you know, you have me just kind of in my own little world. It's upsetting because, you know, I don't want to be a teammate where, you know, a guy does something, looks over and sees me looking like that. So this is like, you know, part of Duke. You know, it's a part of our culture is guys being excited for each other and guys being engaged in the game. And, you know, I'm not exemplifying that in this picture.
On the court, a lot of times you talk about showing no weakness. Off the court, that's not always the best thing. And I think sometimes in today's society, the lines get blurred. You know, the people they see competing on the stage of athletics, they forget, you know, when they cross the lines, they're normal people who go through normal things. And a lot of times those normal things are very difficult things.
I actually met Andre when I was 14 years old. I think at that time he was top 10 in the country for our age group. And he carried himself like he was top 10 in the country. He was definitely one of the more outgoing people that I've ever met.
Andre Dawkins was a very coveted recruit coming out of high school in Virginia. He's a great shooter. He's one of those guys who, when he shoots the ball leaves his hands, you just assume that it's going in. It's a special talent.
People on the outside looking in would say, you know, how can you be depressed? You know, you play at Duke, you get chartered planes everywhere, best coach, best facilities, you know, what do you have to be depressed about? And, you know, there's a lot more to us than, you know, what you see on TV.
I used to roll up the socks and throw them in the hamper. That was his basket. If he could make anything into a basketball hoop, he did it. Both of those I like, because that's him. He's a clown. He's always clowning, goofing off or doing something crazy. He does it now. He seems nice and shy and calm, but he's funny. He's a comedian, that's for sure. Lacey loved the camera. She thought she was a singer. She was a good dancer. And both kids were smart. They were both really, really smart kids. I called them my pride and joy. He was pride, she was joy. That's who he called when he wanted to discuss something, or she would call him. I mean, they were best friends.
It was a brother-sister thing, I guess. That's one thing. And, you know, we were so similar. Just, you know, we both always giggling, always smiling, always cracking jokes. We just had fun together. You know, it was a St. John's game, and I knew that my mom and my sister were going to be there. You know, before every game, during warm-ups, I always look over to the section to see if the people that, you know, I have coming are there, and they weren't there. But they were coming from a long way. They were coming from Ohio, so I figured, you know, if it's traffic or something like that, you know, they'll be here.
And I told Lacey before we left the house, I just dreamed of an accident. And she said, was it us? And I said, no. And she said, well, let's go. Well, it was, but it was me looking from my view. So the same exact thing I saw was the same exact thing I saw when the paramedic woke me up. I remember a lot of noise. Then I found that's them trying to get her out the car. They told me they were going to rush her to Charleston, that they couldn't stop her bleeding. And I said, okay, I'm on the way. My brother came to get me. And as my brother walked in the door, my mom called to tell me that Lacey had died.
It was just shock and disbelief, I think. As much as you see on the news, you know, people dying in car accidents, you never think it would hit that close to home.
Andre's instinctive reaction after the funeral was to just keep his mind occupied with basketball, to dive right into the basketball season.
Andre is one of the strongest guys I know, you know, mentally, and he didn't want to portray that weakness around us. So even if you knew he was hurting, or even if you could tell he was hurting, he tried not to display any of that. And I think that was one of the bigger problems, is that he kept it into himself. He kept it more internally and, you know, didn't really talk about it that much.
And Andre, you always felt after the death of his sister, you know, either his heart or his mind or both were somewhere else.
Playing for Duke had always been a dream, yet he would be in Cameron, big game, warm-ups, band playing, fans cheering, and he would just have no excitement, no energy.
It almost seemed like he got agitated very quickly with anybody and everything. Like, coach would say something, he'd get agitated and defensive. And I knew that wasn't how Andre was. You know, Andre's competitive, and I remember distinctly, like, games he'd have wide open layups and he'd blow wide open threes, where any other game, it's money. Wide open threes, you know, it's 100% chances going in with Andre.
You know, I think over time you saw a deterioration of joy, you know, and certainly as coaches you could see it on the court.
It ceased to be a game, and it was more like an obligation, something I had to do rather than something I wanted to do.
He never properly processed what happened with his sister. He was slowly retreating into his own world and into his own mind. And we know now that it was because his depression was starting to take hold.
Keep trying to sweep it under the rug, but you know, eventually you got a big pile under the rug, and then now you really have to do something about it.
When he said he was thinking about not playing basketball, and then I knew something was wrong.
At the end of Andre's junior season, Coach K called him into his office and he told him point blank, "You are not going to play for Duke basketball next year."
It was bigger than basketball, and that's something that our staff and our team recognized, and we didn't feel like it was an issue that could be fixed while competing on the grand stage that is Duke basketball. We felt like it would be best for him to step away and address the things that needed to be addressed so he could be happy and the Andre that we all know and loved.
I think it was pretty clear that I needed to, take a step back and figure things out.
There's a counselor in the Duke athletic department who works with the basketball team, and she started meeting with Andre, and she told him very early on when he described his symptoms to her that she thought that he was depressed.
Most of the time, when I'm dealing with stuff, I deal with it internally rather than going to someone. But, having the year off gave me a lot more time. So I was able to go to therapy and, just get things off my chest and just talk.
It was really in those therapy sessions that he learned how to process the things that had happened to him.
I was able to be at peace with Lacey's passing, which was really good for me. Not to be holding on to stuff as much. Registering for classes, and I'm like, well, I'm not playing next year, so I can take any class any time of day. I might as well take off. I'm a senior. Give me something competitive to do, give me something relaxing to do.
And he got a chance to just spend time alone by himself and try to be happy just being Andre.
Well, if you ask the majority of people who follow college basketball, it's about winning. I think that's a very shallow, short-sighted way. For us and for our guys, and for me in particular with Andre, I think it's about growing and learning.
During the spring semester, I started working out again. It felt good to be back on the court, back working out, sweating. So I think that's when, I said, I want to come back and play.
He had the courage at the end of that year to reach out to the Duke coaches and say, you know what, I don't want to play somewhere else. I want to play here, if you'll have me back.
It had to be different. It had to be a different, level of commitment and all that. Part of the whole it being different thing was, changing the number, becoming a new Andre. And, from that point on, I was just trying to, get to work and get ready to come back.
Our first workout, Andre was a totally different player. I've never seen him play like this. Like, he's all over people on defense, he's talking, he's energetic, he's knocking down open shots, he's making extra passes, he's doing everything that he wasn't doing before.
To see him grow and to see him learn about himself and put himself in a position to do great things, whether it's with the game of basketball, but certainly beyond, that's why you coach. And a lot of times when people meet hardship, instead of fighting through a wall, they run the other way. I think Andre's different.
Don't be afraid or feel ashamed to, go and talk to somebody about it or ask someone about it or ask for help, you can get back to normal quicker.
In between the lines, you see these amazing athletic feats, but when they cross back over, they're really just normal kids. I hope Andre is an example to somebody who has confronted some very difficult things and works on a daily basis to become the best he can be. That's a great example for athletes, but I think it's a great example for anyone.